大家好。然后呃，就我先简单说一下，然后我一会儿还是用英语来讲这个 talk。然后对，然后就感谢这个曾老师邀请我，这一次啊，然后跟大家分享一下。然后对，然后欧洲的时间跟美国那边不是特别对得上，然后但我准备了大概30张 slides，然后大家呃。我先讲吧，讲完以后大家如果有问题的话，可以不方便讲话可以留言什么的。OK。
嗯
All right. So yeah. So I will talk about some of the UK stuff. And as you mentioned, I'm a lecturer in urban analytics right now in University of Glasgow. Similar to assistant professor in US, Hong Kong, or say China, whatever. And yeah, but today, yeah, so briefly introduction of myself, originally from Fujian province and did my undergrad in Wuhan University. And I mean, we all graduate kind of from same place. And I finished my PhD straight from undergrad in Arizona State and do about 2 years postdoc and joined the Urban Big Data Center in Glasgow May 1st this year. So I'm here about half a year. Yeah, so briefly talk about my research interests. So yeah, so generally I'm doing urban research, and as Yelu mentioned, like I originally doing more of urban remote sensing stuff, and then gradually going to more of the GI science and the spatial analytical methods. And particularly right now, I'm looking more into like using those technologies to solve the, like say, social, economic, and environmental problems. And by using the, say, the urban big data, or right now we are not really say big data, we say more of the new forms of the urban data. Different methods, you probably already know many of them. Depends on the background, geoscience, machine learning, and optimization. It's one of my original background, start in Arizona State. And also I'm doing some of the urban climate modeling during my dissertation, including sensor networks and also some of the instrumentation. Yeah, and I teach 3 courses here in Glasgow. So the big data urban analytics, more of a survey course of the knowledge. Programming tools will include, say, different types of programming, like packaged Python, GitHub, SQL, something like that. And the group project is more like guiding the master students to do a real world project together. So that's generally my teaching load here. It's like 1 year, 3 courses. And if you're interested, look at my website, and I also have a Twitter account, so you can look at my Twitter as well. Yeah. So yeah, but goes into the UK. So yeah, if you know UK geography landscape, that's probably too much. But generally, UK has 4 different areas: England, Wales, Scotland, and Northern Ireland. And I think back to 50, 60, or 70 years ago, like entire Ireland, it also belongs to UK, but they became independent, I think, after 1950s, I believe. And yeah, in different areas, actually, they don't get along well with each other. And just like England people hate Scotland people, English people hate Scottish people, Scottish people hate English people. And Northern Ireland is, it holds a different religions to Ireland, so that's why they kind of separate. And Ireland also have a long time war between UK and Ireland. So there's like so people are not quite friendly to each other. So when I first got my job here in Glasgow, and I talked with one of the people from England in my department in Arizona State, and he's like, "Oh, you will go to Scotland?" So he's like really not quite exciting. Say, "Oh, like you will go to my country." So they think that he's from England. And I talked with some of Irish professor in Arizona as well, and they feel like they also like not quite like exciting about it, because they all think those are different areas, including Ireland. I mean, those 5 areas are actually quite different from each other. So, and particularly talking about, I mean, London is in England for sure, and Cardiff is the capital for Wales, and Scotland, the capital is the Edinburgh, and Northern Ireland is Belfast, and Ireland is Dublin. So I'm in Glasgow here. So I think 70% of the population in Scotland live around this area, so Edinburgh and Glasgow area. So in the north side, not that many people live there. And okay, so it goes into my slides is not, yeah. So yeah, my slides not showing. So here's like a so one of the, in our induction events, we typically use these slides, and so let's talk about the University of Glasgow. And so that's our main building, and you'll probably see that before. And it's kind of a very Asian style, and people talking about like Harry Potter or something similar to this. And we established in 4051, and got like we in top 10 of Russell Group. And I'll talk more of what is Russell Group and what is this research excellence framework. Okay, that works. So yeah, so going to the ref. So that's kind of the, say, the subject evaluation across the entire UK. And it's similar to, in Chinese, say in Mandarin, it's the 学科评估. And it's like, the UK is doing similar things to like China, but I don't think US doing that like frequently. But here's like the REF 2014 ranking. And luckily, Glasgow Urban Studies ranked the first one, ranked the top, together with BESS from the 2014 REF. And following urban studies, generally we say urban planning in the US, I believe. And there's like Cambridge, Sheffield, UCL, Aberdeen, something afterwards. But also, I also show the geography here. And that's the last year, last time RAF, back to about 6 years ago. And I mean, Bristol, Cambridge, St. Andrews, LSE, they both rank pretty high. That's more like, it's more like evaluating, like the output is like papers, the good papers, and impact is like how your research impact the society. So those two combine together as the overall RAF records. And so we're preparing for the next RAF. That's every 7 years. So next REF is 2021. And so right now we are, I think entire departments are really busy preparing for this. Like, I will talk more about how it works, but basically it's like asking every, staff member to provide, you need to submit, I think at most 5 papers, and they want your paper to be 3-star or 4-star. And what is 3-star, 4-star is like they will have an internal UK panel to review your paper and see if that's a very good one or not. And if that's internationally recognized, so maybe a 4-star paper. But it does not look at it like what journal you publish, what's the impact factor, and you do not need to be like a first author or corresponding author. You can be anywhere, and that kind of paper can be included. So it's quite an interesting evaluation system in terms of the REF. Yeah, but talking about like Russell Group, and so that's like Ivy League in UK, but it has more universities, and you'll probably be familiar with many of the universities here, and say like Cambridge, Edinburgh, and IC, LSE, Oxford. Yeah, so ranging mostly England, I believe. And in Scotland, it's only Edinburgh and Glasgow. And in Northern Ireland, it's only the Belfast, I believe. Yeah, and in Wales, it's the Cardiff. Right. Yeah, but mostly in England. So that's, I think, 24 universities represents the highest research activity in the UK. But also goes to the history of the universities. Like, I think Glasgow is the 4th oldest. We call it Asian University, and it goes like Oxford, Cambridge, and goes St. Andrews. St. Andrews is pretty good. Sometimes you don't see in pretty high ranking, but it's actually pretty good university. in terms of in Scotland and entire UK, and Glasgow and Edinburgh also pretty good here, and that's the idea. Right. So yeah, but it goes to talk a little bit of urban analytics. So that's kind of a new turn recently come to the academia discussion, and particularly with the Journal of Environmental and Planning B changing name to Urban Analytics and City Science, and with the Alan Turing Institute is one of the leading machine learning research institute named by the famous scientist Alan Turing and the father of the computer science. And so they launched the Urban Analytics research program back to last year, I believe. And Michael Batty wrote a paper as editorial about Urban Analytics defined. And also, like in last year AAG, there's like urban data science panel discussion, and these papers also published on the EPB journal. I personally feel that's pretty interesting paper if you're interested in this field, but it's really like discussing what's going on in urban data science. But it goes into more of the definitions. So urban analytics it's actually like because of the big data, more available like urban big data, and that can be used in the traditional urban science, and different things and different methods needs to be designed to analyze those data. But it does not need to be big data in terms of urban analytics. It doesn't need to be like use AI and machine learning, and that's urban analytics. It can be really traditional statistics, econometrics. But I feel like in Michael Batty's paper it mentioned more about the theory. So that actually open the opportunity to build on a new theory around the city science. But there's also discussion around urban analytics, informatics. And sometimes people just not quite sure how it looks like. And I mean, my personal understanding is that urban analytics will kind of, drop here, like intersection between urban informatics, regional science, urban planning, and informatics more focused on computing and the data, and analytics goes more into the theory side of it, and also have more application to the policy, urban planning, and the urban governance processes. But I mean, goes to the world leading research center. I want to highlight a few of it. So I mean, MIT, certainly Sensible City Lab, and Xiaojiang's from there, and they both did postdoc there.
但是对于他来说就很不止那个什么呀，因为就是我们俩今天聊的比较多，就是像他在国内，他会回头做报告，然后他的那个 title 就是 engineer， 就其实很那个什么。最起码你要是那种 scientist， 美国的那个职称体系里面 engineer 是就是最基本的那种工员工程。
Okay, so so these are the centers like CDRC, Consumer Data Research Center.
我刚才跟你说话。
你在跟我说话吗？什么？不是很 work 啊。Okay, so there's the chat. OK, fine.
刚刚那个确实是在，刚刚那个女生在说话，我不知道你讲的时候有没有听到。
我知道她在说话，但是我不知道她是在问我问题还是在回答别人的问题。
哦，你认识吗？我好像
我不知道。
啊。 没关系，没关系，你那个继续，然后一会儿。
Oh, okay, okay, okay.
OK，好的。
再打电话 Okay, sure. So, okay, so CDRC and UBDC and there's another center called Administrative Data Research Center, and three of the center are all the say the UK government funded data service center. So basically they try to purchase data by using government money, and then put those money and put the data online for researchers to use. So it's quite an interesting like scheme, like how UK is doing. And yeah, but CDRC is kind of combining these Liverpool, Oxford, and UCL. And the lead is Mark Birkin, and in here in UBDC, and Nick is the second phrase director. The first phrase director, Vonu, and she moved back to as in Rogers in New Jersey, I believe. Yeah, in urban planning to do like doing a research dean position there. Yeah, and I also mentioned another one is the Australia one. So City Futures Research Center led by Chris, and in UNSW, New South Wales, and they also doing pretty interesting research there. So okay. Yeah, but yeah, feel of a sense. I mean, if you're interested, please just go to the website to look at it. I believe I feel the Sensible City Labs really doing quite interesting research, and their model is like the postdoc bring their ideas and projects into the lab, and I feel that's quite a, dynamic atmosphere. And consumers, oops, it's not showing. Yeah, but they say the CDRC is like they're doing many of the research in terms of retail, because the consumer data mostly say the credit card data, and it's really relates to the retail market, and also housing and crime is also one of their big say the topics. And so the City Future Research Center in Australia, they have a pretty good like visualizations. I recently saw a paper. They use I think the virtual reality, VR and AR, augmented reality, and just to simulate like a real-time movement on, like say in the I think Sydney area. And this, like, you can see a bridge and how the boat moving around. And yeah, I think that one is pretty interesting, but they also focusing on like analytics, housing, and city shaping and well-beings. But it goes to like UBDC, and so we have a full research package in terms of education skills, housing and neighborhoods, and urban governance, and the transport infrastructure. And particularly, like we kind of really strong in the transport, housing, and these two domains, but we are trying to develop more in the education, urban governance package. And particularly, I want to mention a few of the data set. So the first one is about the Strava data. So if you use the Strava apps before, so it's like when you're cycling or when you're running, you can open the app and you kind of record your GPS trajectories. And I think mostly people use that to kind of for the aesthetic activities. And we purchased the data from Strava for like Glasgow area, Manchester, and entire Scotland, Sheffield, and Newcastle. And if you just want to do research, that's kind of free to get. And I think we open internationally as well, so it's not limited to like say in UK, so anyone can use it. And the next one is the Zoopla data, and Zoopla is similar to like Zillow or Redfin in US. It's like an online platform. You can look at the houses you want and see the previous price, see the trend. And I think we got entire coverage time from 2010 until right now, and for every of their advertisements, and that's in CSV. And you can actually see it. And we do the research, like linking the Zoopla data with like the Airbnb data. They do the online scraping and just connect them together and see how so Airbnb is more like short time renting, and Zoopla is more long-time renting, and just compare how they actually influence each other. So a lot of interesting things can be done across those kind of data set. And another thing is that we did run like say the IMCD, which is like more of the portable sensing. So we have the household survey, travel diary, together with the GPS, together with the Twitter data, and together with some of other sensors, with I think sound sensor, vision sensor. So it is like sensors you can fix here, you can wear it here, and look at the front of, it has a camera you can look at when you're walking, you actually look at like what's going on in front of you, and you receive the sound and all other informations. So that's one of the project, and the data is also available online. So yeah, I would encourage you, if you're interested in it, just look at the UBDC data service, and I can actually help to explain some of the data use. But it goes to like the UK funding landscape. So we basically under like say the UKRI, so UK Research and Innovation. So there's like 9 different sectors. I mean, including say so UBDC is funded by ESRC, Economic and Social Research Council, and we also have say Innovate UK. So recently there's a collaborative bid between UK and China, smart farming. And NERC is more of the NERC is more of the natural science. And EPSRC, Engineering and Physical Science Research Council, is more for engineering. So that's the big UK, like UK NSF, you can think of like similar to NSF in US. And the GCRF, Global Challenge Research Fund, is big. I'll say it's more like big multiple million projects, but focusing on the like developing countries. Let's say a lot of projects funded for the African cities and African areas. So trying to help them is more about capacity building, and also some of the research collaborations. Newton Fund is also one of the collaboration scheme towards outside of the UK, and this particular like collaborations through Newton Fund between China and the UK, and also some other of the developing countries. Scottish Funding Council is more of local Scottish funding bit, and the Horizon 2020 is the EU funding, and because of Brexit, and we can still receive EU funding until the end of 2020, but afterwards it will depend on like the Brexit results. UK did receive a lot of money from Europe. I think 30% or 35% is much more than the money we contribute, I believe. So. Okay, so so here's like this one of the UK and US collaboration funding scheme. It's between the US NSF and the UK ESRC. And yeah, I would encourage people to look at it and see if we can do anything there. But yeah, but talk about like the differences in terms of higher education. I think that's kind of interesting, and I learned through my process here. So in US, we typically call it assistant professor, associate professor, and professor, or say chair professor, in-depth professor. But in UK, we call it like lecturer, senior lecturer, and some university has reader, some does not, some do not, and also the professorship is a pretty big thing in UK. And in US, mostly like the people focusing on research papers and fundings. There's a tenure track system. And but in UK,
because you cannot really update it with a few labels. So
yeah, but in UK, like someone's speaking.
I was thinking in the beginning about only women.
So no MLP at all.
So you, I mean, if you have like a representation that is good, the random forest like.
Okay. All right, so yeah, I will continue. So basically, can everybody hear me still?
Yes.
Okay, good. So yeah, but goes to the UK is that we focus more on teaching. So we need to kind of mark students' essay like twice, and there's a first marker and a second marker, and then we sometimes send out for like external examiners to look at it. So it's quite a different thing. So in US, probably the TA will PhD students will do the teaching and will grade everything. But here is everything we need to handle it, and it's kind of they still value teaching a lot, and yeah, and as I mentioned, like there's not really like a tenure track system in UK, and there's like some hidden things in UK. Like I eventually find out in Glasgow that they ask you to like promote to senior lecturer after entirely 8 years, but it's not like quite strict like in US. Like after 6 years AP and you assistant professor, you don't get through it and you get kicked out of the university. So it's quite a difference. So it's less pressure and more secure for you for early career faculty members. That's my understanding. And in US, like when you get an NSF NASA project, you can fund international PhDs with like researchers RA or TA. I mean, TA is from school, but for UK, it's mostly the UK money can only go to UK and the EU students. And most of international PhD they need to say the CSC from China or say the Mexican government, they provide some money, and we have a PhD from Mexico receive that money to study here, and or maybe the university provides some money. And recently I post some of that opportunities for students from the university. But generally, my feeling is that UK is more of the international vision in terms of the research. But part of the reason is because UK is so small, and you kind of need to look outside of UK to look at big question, global questions. I mean, at least three of the relationship pretty interesting. So UK is kind of try to maintain a relatively appropriate relationship with EU, with Europe, but also UK established this Commonwealth Commonwealth Union, and so basically all the countries within the Commonwealth try to collaborate. There's particularly Commonwealth scholarship. This year I got one PhD student, master student, want to study in UBDC, and he's from Rwanda, and Rwanda is one of the Commonwealth country, and they can apply to some Commonwealth PhD scholarship scheme, something like that. And also like UK and US, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, they basically they collaborate a lot. They all English speaking countries, and so and I believe a lot of like faculty members, they move around like between UK, US, and Canada, Australia, something like that. So that's it. So at least a few of like the UK GIS programs, I feel that might be useful for some of you to look at it. But when we talk about the GIS, it's more about like UCL is certainly a big center. And this next year, the GISR UK, it's a big UK-wide GIS conference we're hosting in UCL next year. And Leeds is also a big center. There's a Leeds Institute of Data Analysis in geography department. And Edinburgh also pretty good, attract a good student to do, I mean, a good amount of students to study there. Liverpool also is kind of a center with Alex Singleton, is one of the, I think he's the editor of the EPB and also wrote the book. You can see the urban analytics. So the book recently published. Bristol, King's College London, Birmingham, Newcastle, Warwick, Glasgow. So it's kind of a list of the, like students sometimes ask like, what kind of GIS program can I do in UK? And I feel this is like a list. I think they have good people there, good research activities there. Yeah, but a lot of people have like a US background. So say Michael Betty, spent a long time in NCGIA in Buffalo. And I believe Danny was in Arizona State for postdoc with Luke Ansling and Sergio Ray. And I think Zhao Ya is previously in North Carolina, Charlotte, I believe. Rachel previously in Brown and moved to Newcastle to become like a full professor. And James previously in Canada, I believe. So yeah, so certainly a lot of US people come to work in UK in the past, say, 5 years. So yeah, talk about a little bit of the jobs. So how to get into the UK from US. So they mostly post jobs on the jobs.ac.uk. And it's also quite competitive, I heard, because some of the postdocs in our subjects trying to look for jobs right now. And they say like 60, 80 applications for one post. So it's kind of similar to US. It's US really competitive, and here's also. And the UK is eager to hire quantitative people right now in social and urban science because most people here are still doing qualitative research. That in my department, probably only 5 people doing the quantitative research, all based in UBDC. But we have another building, the entire other colleagues. They mostly doing like say real estate, housing, public urban policy, and there's something else, urban planning and the design. And most of them are just like doing qualitative stuff. And for interviews, for UK interviews, so they typically require to do a job talk. So it can be a research talk, it can be a teaching talk, it can be an administrative talk. And if you're not in UK, they sometimes can arrange it like a Skype for you. And a panel interview, so typically after the job talk, it will be a panel interview. So there will be like 5 people interview you and ask you a lot of questions. And from what I heard, that's the most important part, because the job talks, you probably people may ask you 2-3 questions entirely. So it's a 15 minutes talk, 5 minutes question, Q&A, and that's pretty much. And it's basically you are talking. And if you're doing Skype or say a Zoom talk, it's not really meeting with people. And so it's not quite intense. But a panel interview is really, you need to answer your questions in a good way. And sometimes they will, after these 2 stages, they will give you an offer, say, okay, so we want to offer this job to you, but to make you a formal offer, we will require you to make a physical visit to UK, to the university, and talk with people. So that's typically how it works in UK in terms of the interview.
Sorry, can I ask a question?
Yeah, I think that's my last slides. So
okay.
That's the right time to ask questions. All right, thank you. Yeah, so, thank you very much. Yeah.
Yes. So you talk about the Skype interview. Like, what kind of questions usually ask? Like, it's like, where do you see yourself in 5 years? What kind of class you can teach? That kind of, or like more specific questions.